Imagine getting a CT scan and being diagnosed with cancer, and you begin treatment for a cancer, and as you're going through treatment, you get a second opinion and you discover that you actually didn't have cancer, and you started all this treatment that was really hard on your body, and you actually ended up doing more harm to yourself than good if you got misdiagnosed. Well, that can happen in our spiritual life as well. If you are suffering from depression or maybe the dark night of the soul and you don't know which is which, in this video, I'm going to share with you the difference between the dark night and depression and how to know which one it is, because both of them are going to look similar. However, the treatment for them and the care for an individual with depression or a dark night of the soul are going to be pretty different. And if you don't know the differences, you could stay further from God than you want to, or you also can get worse. You can live in depression for a long, long time, and it really hurt your life and your loved ones. So getting clear on whether you're going through a dark night or depression is going to help you to really thrive in your life. It's going to help you develop intimacy with God and to be able to press in and grow deeper in love with God, or help you navigate depression and be able to live a life of happiness and joy that you were created to live in God. What's up? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Meryl. I'm a spiritual director and I help you grow closer to God. So let's get into this video. Quick disclaimer, I am not a therapist or psychologist. I am a spiritual director. So I'm going to be describing depression as I've seen it in my directees and from what I've heard from other therapists who've described their clients with depression. So depression is characterized actually as a mood disorder where you actually feel depressed for longer than 2 weeks, where everything kind of feels like it's gray, where you can have physical symptoms like being fatigued, maybe even insomnia where you can't sleep, or then you are really tired and then you sleep during the day and you kind of don't feel motivated to live your life. You kind of have this low grade sadness and kind of loneliness that you're experiencing when it actually feels like it impedes your life, not just normal moments of loneliness or moments of sadness, but where it actually kind of starts to color all of your experiences. You maybe lose your appetite, your sex drive goes down, your kind of gusto for life goes down. You kind of start to have maybe even suicidal thoughts or dark thoughts that kind of don't seem to go away. And it really affects your overall mood, your performance at work. And it can really even bring up questions like, where is God? How does this affect your spiritual life? Praying feels dry. You can feel really depressed in your spiritual life and in your regular life as well, and in maybe non-spiritual ways too. A dark night of the soul is going to look similar in the sense of you're going to feel despair and maybe some hopelessness, but it's going to be only around your spiritual life. The rest of your life could seem fine and jolly. You have energy to navigate your life. There's occasional sadness, there's occasional setbacks, but for the most part, things are going pretty well. But when it comes to your spiritual life, your prayer life, or your reading the Bible, even your experience at church, you can feel dry or just unmotivated, but you do want things of God. You do want to know God more and you want to experience Him, but something just is not clicking, or you even feel a sense of hopelessness. And if it's specifically in your spiritual life only and not in the other areas of your life, then this is going to be a dark night of the soul, or dark night of the senses, or the wall, or the journey inward, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be place where God is actually inviting you into a deeper relationship with Him. And it's going to look awful lot like depression. And you could feel really depressed, but it's about your spiritual life and not the other areas of your life. Now, they can coexist together. However, one is a dryness in your spiritual life. The other one is a dryness in your emotional and mental health. The roots of the issue are different. So some symptoms of the dark night could be overall sadness, confusion, loneliness, despair. You're questioning your beliefs, your values. You can kind of see more of your own dysfunction, your character. You can start to be hard on yourself even because you're realizing you're not living up to the ideals that you believe you should live up to. You start shooting on yourself and you can be very lost and confused as to where God is. You're not able to hear His voice, or when you think you hear His voice, you get really conflicting messages and it can be really overwhelming. It's important to know if you're experiencing spiritual depression or a dark night of the soul, because you would see two different people. So if you're experiencing depression, you would see a therapist or mental health counselor, or somebody who has a PsyD or an MFT or a counselor that's going to help navigate that emotional state for you and help you unpack and hold the losses that you're experiencing, whether that's of a dream, a person, or just this overall feeling of sadness. But a spiritual director is going to help you with with a dark night, they're going to understand the dark night of the soul and help you navigate a life with God in your interior heart, and how to actually listen to God and participate with God's movements through the dark night. That is going to bring you into a deeper relationship with God, help you to have infused contemplative prayer. A spiritual director would kind of shed some light and be a guide as you navigate the kind of unpredictable waters of a dry spiritual life, that we do need encouragement. We need somebody to help us who's gone on the journey and who can remind us to have hope and to respond to God, that are going to lead you to more intimacy and God's felt presence, as opposed to feeling more and more lost. Some key differences between the two is depression is a mental health condition. The dark night of the soul is something that every Christian that is growing in their faith has to experience to press into God more. The dark night and depression can experience sadness, but how the sadness affects a person is going to be different. There's varying degrees of how we all experience these things. Some people can have mild depression, some people can have more intense depression. Again, I'm not a mental health counselor. That's just how I've seen it play out in people's lives. So if you are experiencing depression, I encourage you to reach out to a therapist, talk to a friend, see if you can get some referrals. Or if you're experiencing what you think is a dark night and you want to navigate this and come out the other side closer to God, then seeing a spiritual director would be really important. Feel free to email me below and we can set up a time to have a free consultation to see if spiritual direction might be beneficial for you in this season. The dark night of the soul is actually an intentional process that we go through in our spiritual walk to rid ourselves of all the unhealthy attachments that keep us disconnected from God. If we love all the things that God does for us and not actually God himself, we are not going to have a deep relationship with him, because we like the benefits and not the person of God, right? The personal being of God. And so the dark night actually helps us to remove all of our unhealthy attachments that keep us from experiencing the love of God. So a dark night is actually something that is intentional and powerful to help us become mature in Christ. And so participating with God and navigating the dark night and letting it actually open you up to the love of God is going to help make your relationship so much stronger and lead you to a more vibrant life that's abundant, to really experience the rivers of living water, as John talks about in Revelation. I think that's Revelation. Going through a dark night is actually a really big gift, even though it does not feel like it at the time. But having a guide is one of the most beneficial things you can do, because you're going to be able to move through it faster. And it's not about moving through it faster. God works at God's pace and God's timing is perfect. And so no matter how much we fight and resist against it, we can actually make the process worse. But if we participate with God and we become receptive to what he's doing in our lives, we can become so much more connected to him, and we have so much more of a fulfilling, full, whole life if we participate with God. I hope this video was helpful explaining the difference between depression and dark night of the soul. Let me know what your spiritual questions are. I would love to make content on them in my next video. Check out this video next, and I will see you in the next video.